Good morning, and thank you for joining the webinar today. I'm Simon Renouf, Associate Director of Product Management at iPass, and the topic for discussion today is how iPass helped Life Wireless increase margins and reduce costs. Joining me Jim Carpenter, Vice President of Compliance at Telluride Corporation, and Carrie Pressley, Director of Marketing at Life Wireless. Hi Jim, hi Carrie.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
The format today is a fairly casual Q&A style discussion. During this webinar, we'll be covering various aspects of our successful partnership with Life Wireless, with whom we've been partnered since the fall of 2016. This partnership brings unlimited global Wi-Fi to Lifeline program subscribers. We'll be giving you a little bit more context about Life Wireless, their business model, and their relationship to the Lifeline program. We'll be inquiring why they decided to seek out a Wi-Fi solution and why iPass in particular. We'll also touch on aspects of the technical integration of iPass software into Lifeline phones before discussing early feedback from the field. At the very end of our presentation, we'll be answering your questions, so please don't hesitate to enter them into the chat box. A little bit about iPass. Well, you can think of us pretty simply as the Uber of Wi-Fi. Just like Uber, a software company that doesn't own a single car, yet is the largest cab company in the world, we're a software company that doesn't own a single hotspot, but has the largest Wi-Fi network, with more than 60 million hotspots in more than 120 countries. How do we do that? Well, we partner with more than 120 network providers to build this global network. Our software solution is built on a software-as-a-service platform, which allows us to keep mobile subscribers invisibly connected to the best performing Wi-Fi hotspots, while also handling the complexity of the Wi-Fi ecosystem for our partners. That's enough about us. Jim, would you care to provide us with an overview of Life Wireless for our audience?
Sure, good afternoon. I'll do two things. I'll introduce the Lifeline industry to the listeners and also talk about who we are, because further in the discussion it may be relevant to some of the cost and impacts and consumer impacts that iPass gives us some advantages on. The Lifeline industry originally was founded to ensure that, much like the highway system in the United States, to ensure that every American citizen had access to reliable and stable communications. When it was founded many decades ago, it was originally done with wireline services. And over the years, with the advent of and growth in technology and network with wireless, the George Bush administration expanded the Lifeline program to include the wireless side of the nation. So the street name and political name, those of you who aren't familiar with Lifeline as attendees will maybe recall the Obama election cycle and the infamous Obama phone connection to the industry. And there are many misnomers about that that are relevant for our partnership with iPass. One is that it's tax-based. It is not a tax. It's a part of a fee that's been around for decades on all communication, namely telephone communication fees, that goes into a universal service fund that does, beyond just the Lifeline program, provide for low-income families and households to have reliable access to communications. But it also funds schools and libraries, for example, around the United States for a continuing education and reliable education to the underprivileged. So I mention that as the Universal Service Fund because that's how we're funded. Those are our revenues. We provide a level of service in our tariff to our customers that we enroll pursuant to our FCC compliance plan. And in doing so properly and registered with the Lifeline program, we are reimbursed a small amount through the Lifeline program. So the Lifeline program, as you know it today, is one that's built out of one that was built many decades ago, just modernized to include cell phones. Some of you may be aware of the low-income other programs in the United States, namely food stamps and Medicaid. And those programs that you're looking at on the screen are the programs that an applicant uses to qualify with their ongoing subsidy. And of course, that subsidy has to be current, and we have to recertify it every year, and there are other heavily regulated requirements that we must adhere to ensure that the customer is properly enrolled, not just with their qualifications in terms of subsidy, but also with their identity. We use various tools and algorithms to ensure that we have not just the right individual, but the right individual with the right subsidy. The Telluride and history is very interesting. We are Carrie and I are employees of a larger corporation, Telluride Corporation, that has a number of businesses in the family. The vast majority of those are telephony companies. Life Wireless provides the Lifeline service in over 30 states and in the Caribbean and Puerto Rico and in the Virgin Islands. And our parent corporation, Telluride Corp, has been a long-standing telephone company. We still have ILX customers. We still have long-distance customers, albeit them fewer and fewer with my aforementioned growth in the wireless business. But we also have pay-as-you-go wireless services. The corporation is in Covington, Georgia. We are quite unique in that we do not have any core function of our business outsourced. We have a 100-seat call center here housed with employees in Georgia, in the Atlanta area, as well as our production facility, which intakes our handsets, and our subsidy approval center. That's a facility that is housed here in the corporate headquarters that ensures that every order is 100% compliant. And then us executives and leadership team and admin support. So we have had our MVNO with AT&T for 15 years, I think, Carrie, is what we're approaching or over, I forget now. And as a direct MVNO with AT&T, who is our carrier on the Lifeline product. I mentioned before our operating states and territories, and I'll talk a little bit more about the costs associated in just a moment when we get into that area of discovery in the discussion. But from the standpoint of an introduction to the Lifeline program and Telluride, and namely Life Wireless, Simon, that's the overview of who we are.
Thanks, Jim. I might just frame our discussion for our audience with some brief data points on the rise of Wi-Fi for mobile devices. Over a number of years and projected into the future, there's a huge trend towards adoption of Wi-Fi around the world, with something like 60% of mobile data traffic originating on Wi-Fi today. And that proportion is forecast to grow even as the total demand for mobile data explodes. So Wi-Fi is a very important part of the mobile data ecosystem. With that said, Jim, I guess the first question I'd like to ask is, why did Life Wireless decide to include Wi-Fi as part of the service for your customers?
Yeah, there were a number of reasons. Obviously, we take the traditional route of reducing costs and delivering best in service products and services to the customer. But one of the leading impacts was a major FCC reform that happened on December 2nd, 2016, which required which began the expansion, I should say, of voice services into broadband, meaning the subsidy that we received through the Lifeline program, the subsidy that we received stayed the same, but the program began to expand into broadband, meaning for the same amount of money, we had to expand our service offering into broadband. This makes sense from an FCC and a social perspective, from the standpoint of being able to offer not just voice services, but those that are in low income need access to data and online services to get jobs, to book healthcare appointments, to do the things that we take advantage of every day in terms of communication. And the FCC took action to expand the program to include Wi-Fi. So yes, Simon, those are the major reasons that we made a move into looking at a partnership with iPass.
So if I understand that right, your subscribers have some amount of data in the plan, but Wi-Fi is being offered as a complimentary service, so that your customers are able to better manage that cellular data cap through having access to Wi-Fi.
Yeah, absolutely. With a highlight on the fact that we're still receiving the same subsidy. So it means that we're required to provide more service in terms of data when we were originally. We came from the original requirements came from voice only. This introduced data. So we had an added cost, significant cost. Data is, everyone understands, is more expensive than voice. So we were immediately required to add a fixed cost to our margin without receiving additional revenues. So absolutely, you're right. That created an opportunity for the customer to expand their experience into online. But in doing that, we had to create a tier that was limited because our subsidy did not allow for unlimited expansion. So that's why we took a look at iPass to provide a customer with a wider range of access to Wi-Fi.
So while that FCC rule change required you to increase your data allowances with no subsidy increase, that's not particularly dissimilar to the challenge that other MVNOs would face with the demand for data increasing, but share of wallet, being relatively limited in terms of its growth potential. So other mobile operators also need to be able to offer more data without necessarily having the opportunity to grow their revenue base. I think that's interesting that you're able to not just help your users manage their cellular plan caps, but also manage offer more data without a significant increase, as significant an increase in cost as you would otherwise have had.
That's correct. We don't have the opportunity to reduce our handset costs, which we are not reimbursed for. We don't have an opportunity to reduce our acquisition costs because we're still acquiring the customer and the costs that are associated with that. But to add additional services, significant services in the form of data, adds significant costs. But we also had to do that in a best-in-class way that ensured that they had enough access that it made a difference in their daily lives. So you're absolutely right.
I got to say, Jim, I love this plan. It looks pretty attractive. You get some amount of cellular data, but then having that unlimited Wi-Fi attached looks very attractive. Are you finding this helps differentiate Life Wireless in the market? Are your competitors doing anything similar?
So no, we're a leader in this without a doubt, so I'll answer that question on two fronts, on the enthusiasm front, and that's two. The first is enthusiasm from our partners, of which we have thousands and thousands of partners. For the purposes of this discussion, let's consider that our retail partner, how we acquire the customer, and the enthusiasm from them, Carrie, was outstanding. It was a resounding, overwhelming positive response as a differentiator in the market And then the enthusiasm from the customer comes from adoption. Now, we're still early on in the process of we're kind of in our phase 1, moving to phase 2 on it. But the enthusiasm from the customer is also genuine, and we'll talk about some of that a little bit later too. So in terms of the opportunities, but yeah, Simon, it's both enthusiasm factors from our retailers and partners and the customers has been positive.
Good to hear, Jim. So I think we've talked about a little bit about the value to your end users. We've talked about how it helps them to manage their cellular data caps. We talked about how it helps you on the cost side. Another key metric for mobile operators and MVNOs is average revenue per user. It doesn't look like Wi-Fi is helping with ARPU growth in these plans at the moment. Do you see any potential for Wi-Fi to help grow revenues in the future or currently?
Yeah, so let's go back quickly to, you're right. I want to answer your question directly. But we also have to talk about, as a heavily regulated business and receiving a fixed subsidy, we have to talk about how ARPU might relate to some of the listeners. Would be, for us, we increase our revenue and our margins by attacking those things that are high cost. This first and foremost gives us an opportunity to lower our costs, and I'll give you an example. If YPass gives me millions of locations for my customers, my customer care department takes over 50,000 calls a day. If Carrie and marketing and Jim and operations and compliance and the other team here in Georgia can deliver with iPass a reliable, secure, unlimited data experience, then I can drive them more online for their account inquiries and recharge and top-ups, where today, presently, I have to serve them via voice and customer service. So increasing average ARPU for us is fairly static. The opportunity for us is maintaining that relationship for a long time with the customer and lowering our internal costs in doing that. iPass gives us the opportunity to create an online experience for them and reduce internal costs.
I see. I think the other day when we were having a chat, we talked about the opportunity, to potentially grow revenues that Wi-Fi opens up. Carrie, maybe this is a question for you. Alternate revenue opportunities that are opened up through iPass.
Yeah, Carrie's working on a great deal of those, so maybe Carrie could give you a highlight of the additional revenue opportunities.
Yes, so on the marketing side of things and the advertising side of things, there are quite a few things that we do on the device that drive revenue, and a lot of those things do require Wi-Fi. And the limited access to Wi-Fi of our customer base, they're not typically have as much access as your typical user at home. They aren't necessarily connected to internet at home. Therefore, giving them access to more access points to Wi-Fi becomes increasingly important when our revenue driving streams need Wi-Fi to be connected. We serve ads on the lock screen you'll see on the screen right now as an example. That requires Wi-Fi to be able to serve those ads. And we do several other things. We have exclusive partnerships with one of the largest national retailers. And what we are doing with them also there's a loyalty program that requires access to Wi-Fi as well, among other things. So it becomes increasingly important for revenue driving streams, in addition to just saving on the data costs, their revenue streams tied to having access to Wi-Fi that make iPass extremely important in that regard as well.
Right. So really, Wi-Fi is increasing the engagement of your customers, increasing the amount of time they're able to spend online, and therefore, opening up opportunities to value add. Is that right?
That's right. Yep. And other Lifeline companies do not. They're facing the same problems that we have with limited data on their plans. So this also gives us a differentiating factor between us and them that you kind of referenced. One of you guys referenced earlier that differentiates us in the Lifeline categories as well.
Yeah, that increased ability to consume data, I'm just thinking, also offers the opportunity for other over-the-top services. It might be voice over Wi-Fi or IP television, IPTV, other entertainment-type services that, users are going to have more opportunity to consume where they have unlimited Wi-Fi and they don't have a concern about their cellular data limits.
Absolutely.
So we might just take a step back for a moment to your plans and understand a bit more about how you deliver service to your users. Carrie, would you mind walking us through the user experience, how the service is delivered, how do users get up and running for Wi-Fi?
Sure, yes. So from a customer perspective, they have several different ways. We want to make it as user-friendly as possible and give them several options. They can either, the app is already on the phone, and many of our devices already have the app now, then it's a very simple process. As soon as they get it from one of our partners, the partner activates iPass for them, and as soon as they walk away with that phone in hand, it should just work. If it's one of our older customers, not older in age, but one of our more loyal customers, been with us a while, they may not have iPass on the device yet, so they can either grab the app from the App Store or by going to our landing page on our website and download it straight from there. And our landing page will actually walk them through it as well. Or they can call customer service and they can send the app to their device and walk them through the activation process right there as well. The whole process takes a couple minutes. So we've really worked in several different facets to make it as painless as possible for the customer, and it's working out very well.
Right. So just to break that down a little bit, so for new customers where you're delivering a phone, you're actually preloading the iPass application onto those devices?
That's right, yeah. So right now, that's the goal. Eventually, all of our devices, and a large chunk are that way as well now. But yeah, the app is preloaded on the device. When they're getting the device from our partner, the activation process then sends an SMS link to the customer that they just click, and then it walks them through the whole process. So it's an API conversation between our team and your team that gives them a unique download link to activate the device.
Right. So you make an API call to iPass to establish the entitlement for the subscriber, and you get back an activation token from us, which you're then able to SMS in a link to the user, and it's just a simple click for the user to get up and running.
That's correct.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about customer service and helping your users even through that simple process in the field. What about ongoing support? What do you do in that regard?
With ongoing support, they can call our customer service team. They have been trained on any questions, but really we haven't seen a whole lot of that as being needed, because we also have kind of an FAQ section on our website that can answer any questions, and that may be doing its job there, but they can also certainly call customer service. But essentially, because it just is working once it's already set up, we haven't had a ton of calls about that.
That's great. I was going to ask you what kind of issues are you encountering at this early stage with your users, but if you're not getting many calls, I guess that's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah, essentially it would just be questions about how do I find out, I'm going to such and such place, how do I find out if iPass will connect there? So it's just basic questions about functionality in the app.
So what about positive feedback? How are your customers responding to the Wi-Fi service? I know it's early days, but how's the feedback so far?
Yeah, I've seen some I monitor conversations on Facebook. That's primarily where I'm getting to see firsthand comments from the customers, and we've heard some positive feedback. Just other customers telling other customers about ways that they can lower their data usage, and that's where I've seen iPass come up in a positive light, and then just telling other customers about it. So word of mouth a good bit there.
Okay, Jim and Carrie, I think I've run to the end of my questions. Are there any other things you'd like to talk about today?
No, from our perspective, we feel like we wanted to talk about a review of the positive organizational impacts to us, namely on the cost side, and most importantly, the customer side. From a customer perspective, I think we've talked about that, with how we believe that this easy integration has given us the opportunity to increase our revenues, but even more importantly, the opportunity for the customer to experience a new level of service that is beyond what we're able to minimally provide in our subsidy reimbursement. So I think we covered most of our points.
Okay, in that case, I might just wrap up a little bit. So today we talked a little bit about iPass and Life Wireless. We discussed the user experience, the value to the users in terms of having access to unlimited Wi-Fi in addition to their cellular limits. And we touched on some of the value to Life Wireless in terms of differentiation and from the competitors, the ability to potentially drive upsell and revenue growth through additional services, increase customer engagement, and I guess that also helps potentially to reduce churn, and the benefits in terms of increasing margins or reducing the cost of the cellular data component by being able to deliver mobile data connectivity through Wi-Fi in addition to the cellular network. That really brings us to the end of our discussion today. I'd like to thank Jim and Carrie for joining me. Do we have any questions online? We do. So the question is, you mentioned alternative revenue opportunities enabled by a global Wi-Fi service. Are there any plans to add Wi-Fi to non-Lifeline phones? So, Jim or Carrie, I guess that's a question for you guys.
It's our sister company, which is also under the MVNO with AT&T, has similar opportunities on the offering to the customer, both direct and through ad channels and offer channels. So I hope I'm understanding the question right in terms of our other lines of business are able to take advantage of the iPass partnership and expand their revenue opportunities too.
Yeah, I think that answers the question. Thank you, Jim. It doesn't look like there are any other questions on the line. So if that's the case, Jim and Carrie, thank you very much for joining me today. It was great to have a chat. And we'll bring the webinar to an end.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.